The northern portion of Arizona is an amazing area with stunning vistas and a fascinating history. There are many ways that I can share this area with you, but I want to focus on only 2 or 3 parts. I'm going to introduce you to the area using a historical perspective, which to me adds to the allure. When talking about northern Arizona, many people know about the Grand Canyon, which is well worth visiting. I'm going to take you even further north, however, to what is referred to as the Arizona Strip. No, it's not that sort of strip. The Las Vegas Strip and the Arizona Strip are about as far apart in character as you can imagine. Today, the Arizona Strip is rather easy to access. It just takes some determined driving. Historically, however, the Arizona Strip is one of the most formidable and inaccessible geographic areas in the United States. The problem is twofold. The first is the Vermilion Cliffs, which are literally a geological step up from the Painted Desert area to the Paria Plateau. They literally present a 3,000-foot wall that extends for miles and miles and miles. The second problem is the Colorado River, which cuts through all of this, carving deep canyons, the most well-known of which is the Grand Canyon. In the 1800s, when you are riding on horseback or pulling a wagon, how do you get past this and this? The answer is that you don't, unless you are rather intrepid and determined. For those who are both intrepid and determined, the solution could be harrowing, depending on the time of year, as that affected the flow of the water in the river. The safest historical place to cross the Colorado River was at Lee's Ferry, where you had to descend cliffs from the north and the south to the low point where the ferry crossed. Lee's Ferry is at the point where Glen Canyon to the north meets Marble Canyon to the south. It is at the confluence of the Paria River and the Colorado River. If you didn't cross at Lee's Ferry, then those 2 problems I mentioned, the Vermilion Cliffs and the Colorado River, made heading north or south impossible. You needed to detour about 600 miles east or west to get around these natural barriers. Lee's Ferry was the only way through until Navajo Bridge was built in 1929. Now, I'll talk about the bridge in a moment, but the ferry was established in 1873 by John D. Lee, who only operated it for a couple of years until he was arrested, tried again, and finally executed for his part in the Mountain Meadows Massacre. The ferry was subsequently owned and operated by various individuals. The last owner-operator was Coconino County from 1910 until the completion of the Navajo Bridge. This historic Arizona highway map, published in 1925, shows that the path through this area went right through Lee's Ferry. And there were no other roads running north and south because they couldn't run through those geographical barriers that I discussed. Today, Lee's Ferry is a part of the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area. You enter from US Route 89A and soon arrive at a self-pay station. As with most national recreation areas, it will cost you a bit to visit. After the pay station, you'll see that there are multiple hiking areas, including some fun rocks that you can run around with the kids. Further up the road, you'll find a campground, day use areas, and boat ramps offering access for power boaters and kayakers. Once at Lee's Ferry, you get a great glimpse of the past. If you come during the off-season, when visitors are few, you can almost imagine what it was like here about 150 years ago. This is the only place that people at one time could go across the river
for hundreds of miles. They would have had to go hundreds and hundreds of miles out of their way to go around the Grand Canyon area. But here they were able to ford the river, or if the water level was low enough, or at other times of the year, they would use a boat to ferry across the river from this point behind me. We'll turn around here so you can see the area behind me. And then they would go across the river and then up that backbone over there to be able to get back on their way into northern Arizona. Now this is an area where lots of people come and they are able to launch boats into the river so that they can go a few miles upriver towards the dam, or if they are on some of the expedition rafts, they would go downriver and into the Grand Canyon for some of those expeditions that can last a week or 2 weeks as they shoot some of the rapids going through the canyon itself.
The way the river looks here is tamer than what it was back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. That's because just a few miles north of Lee's Ferry, there's a dam called the Glen Canyon Dam that was built in 1966. Since then, the Colorado River has essentially been tamed quite a bit, with the dam creating Lake Powell and the water being released from the dam in a more regulated manner. Lee's Ferry is about 5 miles north of Navajo Bridge, which was opened on January 12, 1929, and was originally called the Grand Canyon Bridge. The Arizona legislature changed the name to Navajo Bridge 5 years later, in 1934. This historic Arizona highway map from 1935 shows Navajo Bridge already in place. A later map from 1971 shows not just Navajo Bridge, but also Glen Canyon Dam in the town of Page, Arizona, which was first created for the builders and workers at the dam. Whenever you come from the north or south, chances are very high that you'll come across Navajo Bridge before you even get to Lee's Ferry. US Route 89A goes right over the sister bridge, opened in 1995. If you go from southern areas in Arizona to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, your route will take you right over the newer bridge. If, however, you are simply driving from Arizona to Utah on US Route 89, it is easy to miss these amazing bridges. If you pass through this area, you really do need to stop at the Navajo Bridge Interpretive Center, which is on the west side of the bridge. Here you'll find a parking area, restrooms, plenty of historic markers, and a great gift shop. Perhaps it's my weird sense of humor, but I found this sign in each stall of the restroom to be rather funny. Go figure.
This is one of my favorite places to come. The reason is that when the sun is just right, I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous around here. Look at the cliffs behind me. These are the start of the Vermilion Cliffs, and they head southward from here. I'm standing over the top of the Colorado River. The Colorado River from here runs south into the Grand Canyon, and the canyon that are crossing over with this bridge could be considered the start of the Grand Canyon. Now, it doesn't show up as part of the national park or anything else like that, but this site is definitely worth visiting if you're anywhere near northern Arizona. If you come from the south rim of the Grand Canyon, up Highway 89, at Bitter Springs, you just turn off and come towards 89A. It'll take you to the area of Jacob Lake and to the north rim of the Grand Canyon. You have to cross right across the bridge, and it is definitely worth a stop here to be able to look around. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
For me, the coolest thing about the Interpretive Center is that you can walk out on the historic Navajo Bridge and take in the sights.
This bridge crosses the Colorado River about 9 miles south of Page, Arizona, southwest of Page, Arizona. And it was built in 1929. It represents the first convenient way to pass over the Colorado River. You'll see in just a moment why that was a problem in this area. It is also on the edge of the Navajo Reservation. I believe that this is the largest Native American reservation in the United States. You can see that it goes from Flagstaff at the southwest corner all the way up into the Four Corners area. This is the bridge. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. It was placed there in 1981. This bridge was completed in 1928. It is an amazing thing to go across this bridge. They've left it up so that pedestrians can go across it. It's just an amazing area to visit, particularly on a gorgeous day like we have here today. The companion bridge that goes over here, I believe, was built in the 1990s, and it was built to be able to handle the loads that are required on modern highways. This is Highway 89A that goes across this. You can see that there are condors that are in the lattice work underneath those, underneath the bridge there. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 of them underneath the bridge there. Those are California condors with an amazing wingspan. Okay, you can see the Colorado River down here. It's an amazing view. I have no idea if you can see down there. I'll try to zoom in. If you can see the muddy eddies that are down in the water down here. And that's the silt and stuff that gets dredged up by the Colorado as it moves along. The Colorado River flow control through here is controlled by the Glen Canyon Dam, which is about 7 miles upstream. We're looking downstream here, but about 7 miles upstream, the Glen Canyon Dam, which has Lake Powell behind it. That dam controls the release and flow of water through this area. So there's not as much water erosion as there used to be at one time. You can see the bridge goes all the way across. Of course, it wouldn't be much of a bridge if it didn't go all the way across. But we'll go over to the other side here and look upstream.
An interesting fact about the historic Navajo Bridge is that when it was opened in 1929, it was the largest steel arch bridge in the world. Since then, larger bridges have been built, but the twin spans of the Navajo Bridge are currently tied for 9th place among the highest bridges in the United States. The historic bridge stands at 467 feet above the river, and the newer span is 470 feet above the river. The astounding thing to me is that just 5 miles north of here, at Lee's Ferry, you can walk right down to the Colorado River. And that's quite the change in just 5 miles. The Navajo Bridge crosses the Colorado River and takes the traveler on U.S. Route 89A from the Echo Cliffs on the east side to the Vermilion Cliffs on the west. To me, these cliffs are some of the most spectacular anywhere. The name of the cliffs comes from their color, with vermilion referring to their reddish hue. The cliffs are so large that you can see them for miles and miles before you get to Navajo Bridge. This view is coming from the southeast, along U.S. Route 89 at Cedar Ridge. Those are the Echo Cliffs at the right side, and I'll use an arrow to point out the Vermilion Cliffs. Remember that the Vermilion Cliffs are approximately 36 miles away from me at this point. As you drive from Bitter Springs towards Navajo Bridge, the extent and formidableness of the cliffs becomes increasingly apparent. The cliffs are just the facing edge of the area known today as the Vermilion Cliffs National Monument, a 450 square mile wilderness area. A person could easily spend days exploring all this area has to offer. While I'm not real big on hiking, I have no problem appreciating the beauty of the cliffs. US Route 89A, heading south from Navajo Bridge, runs right along the bottom of the cliffs for dozens of miles toward House Rock Valley. Since you are traveling along the eastern edge of the cliffs, the views are especially stunning as the red rock reflects the morning light. And, as you might imagine with 3,000-foot cliffs, they cast quite a long shadow in the late afternoon as sundown is approached. Eventually, after leaving the southern point of the cliffs, you'll start to ascend the Kaibab Plateau, but the Vermilion Cliffs still dominate your rearview mirror. They only leave your view entirely once you are well into Kaibab National Forest and on your way to Jacob Lake. There you can either turn south toward the north rim of the Grand Canyon or north towards Fredonia, Arizona and Kanab, Utah. I hope you enjoyed this quick look at Lee's Ferry, Navajo Bridge, and the Vermilion Cliffs. It's hard to do justice to the jaw-dropping magnificence of these areas. I'm grateful that I live in a time when I don't have to face these wonders on horseback or in a wagon, but can enjoy them in the light they deserve. I enjoy visiting all three areas over and over again. Each time I stop by, I see something new and revel in the beauty that is abundantly evident in the area. Thanks for traveling with me today. If you have any comments, I'd love if you left them down below.